Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive.
It's like an exhaustive deep dive.
All the X-books is their mission, so get ready for the learned edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind.
How dare you!
Welcome, all you weirdos, controversial YouTube interview influencers, and all you limbo demons listening in while pretending to search for Kid Omega. It is time to receive your 146th Weird Dose of X, the mutant member of your Weird Science podcast family. I am your curling observant host, Jason, broadcasting as always from the Wrong Turn studio perched high atop stately Weird Science Tower. And with me is a man who would never give up on searching for Quentin Quire. It's my pal Ruben. Hey Ruben, how the heck are you today?
Hey, I'm mostly good, but I just burned the shit out of my hands. I'm running late, so we're recording about 20 minutes after we should have recorded. And I think, not terrible secret, but I'm a lawyer in a big law firm in Seattle. And
so who will you be suing for your hand injury, I guess is the question on all our minds.
Myself, because I'm a partner here at the firm.
Ruben v. Ruben. That'll be a landmark case.
Yeah. So this is Administrative Professionals Week for us. So we're celebrating our admins, right? And so we have these breakfasts and various activities. So they're not really in the office the way they normally are. Very well deserved, like no slight on them at all. But, I get in and I pour some coffee and I finish the pot. And normally we have people that would just like make this for us, right?
When you say finish the pot, you mean of coffee, right? I know in the Pacific Northwest, things are a little loosey-goosey.
Yeah, I'm not that kind of a Northwesterner. Just to be clear. But yeah, the pot of coffee. And I'm like, normally I would just say, hey, admin, can you fill this up? But,
but on this day of all days, right?
I'm going to be the boss and I'm going to do it myself, right? So I put it in and I walked off and the pot was brewing. And then, I told you I had to go run and get a pen. So I go run to get this pen. And I look
you did take an oddly long time to get the pen. I was curious. Yeah.
Yes. And I look over and the pot is like overflowing. The coffee is coming out of the spigot and it's still dumping out of the machine, right? And I'm like pushing all the buttons on it, trying to turn it off. It won't turn off.
Like Mickey Mouse and Fantasia, right?
Yes, it was exactly that. Yeah. So went all over the floor, went over. It's like sitting above like it's on a counter. The whole floor is like flooded. I'm like pulling the coffee off, burning the shit out of my hands, like grabbing. I'm like, what do I put this coffee in, right? So I start grabbing these mugs and I put it under. And this admin comes by and he's like, oh, you don't need to clean that up. I'll handle it. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So like the exact opposite of what my plan was, right?
Yeah.
Try to make it easier for them. And they're just like, God, fucking partners.
Someone might suspect this is an incident of strategic incompetence. Yeah. Right? Where somebody gets it wrong on purpose, so no one asks them to do it again.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what really happened. I think it was just an unfortunate event. So
the best part is like, he's like explaining to me like how the coffee maker is like, oh, I think it was overflowing and full. I'm like, oh yeah, I think that's what happened.
Yeah, yep. I think that probably was. I think you've nailed it.
Oh God. So yeah, burned coffee all over my hands, but I'm going to drink it. Hopefully it tastes good. The pain is the extra flavoring agent.
My weekend was mostly sitting around watching curling. I didn't actually start doing my notes for this until like 10 o'clock last night, which for me is way later. Yeah. Because my club, the Ocean State Curling Club, hosted the Arena Club Championship. So we had teams from as far away as Florida coming up to here in Rhode Island. And it was really neat. We got to use the arena at Providence College that the hockey team plays at. So, that's a pretty big time college hockey team, nice big arena. We got to use their ice, was pretty sweet. And my job was to watch every game, 5 were going on simultaneously, and post all the scores in real time to this Bonspiel curling website. It's kind of like if you go to ESPN to see how the baseball teams are doing.
Yeah.
Like that, but just for curling. So it was nice, but I was just watching scoreboards 12 hours
So to
a
get
day
into
for a few
this
days.
tournament, do you have to be like, are you ranked at some point and then you get invited, or do people just sign up for it?
You have to be a member of what's called the GNCC, which is an association of arena clubs.
Mhm.
So there are dedicated clubs who own their own facility, and that's a curling ice, and only a curling ice.
Mhm.
And they're not part of our group.
Right.
We're a group of arena clubs. We're people who like basically rent time on public ice rinks, hockey
Right.
ice, figure skating ice, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So, and it's the organization that helps us get insurance and, those kind of things. So if you're a member of that group, you can send a team to this championship.
Got it. And does this rotate around, or is it always in your neighborhood, or?
This is the second time we've hosted it. I think they gave it back to us because we had this cool arrangement with the college, but it does move around. So I hope to participate someday, and probably in another location.
Very cool.
So,
and is it like
Go
what
ahead.
states? I mean, there's a curling facility here in Seattle that I see. I assume we didn't actually send a team, but is it like a regional attendance, or where's the farthest that somebody came to
I know in the
participate?
past we had people come from Oklahoma, but
Wow.
Florida was the furthest. So basically an East Coast group of here.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the champion this weekend, and congratulations to them, was the Rocket City Curling Club from Huntsville, Alabama.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I really like when people travel for their sports.
It was neat. I've gone to Canada once, and that was a fun trip. But mostly, I haven't done a whole lot of curling touring. I should do that a little more. But coffee spilling and curling aside, we do have a decent amount of books to discuss this week. We have X-Men number 15, continuing the story of Little Paper Cobb and her secret twin. We have X-Force number 10, which is the final issue of this volume, which also is Landmark Legacy issue number 300. We also have Magik number 4, which, Ruben, you're mostly going to talk about that one because I read it, but I think, as the kids say, I just couldn't even, I think is the appropriate terminology there.
Yeah.
That book is definitely not for me. And maybe you could find some things in it that I'm just not seeing.
Yeah, I wanted it to be better than it was. And I think I've unsubscribed from it, unfortunately. As much as I enjoyed, some of the, I guess, choreography is the way I describe it, of the early issues, where I thought the fights were kind of interesting.
Okay.
Everything outside of the fights is it's not well done. So I'm kind of done spending money on it.
Save your fire until later, because we're going to do that last. But first, we do have an Infinity comic that dropped just this morning. And this is, the ding sound is back. This is Astonishing X-Men number 19, I Have Seen Tomorrow, Part 1, presumably Part 1 of 6. It is written by Tim Seeley, art by Eduardo Ordino, colors by K.J. Diaz, and letters by Clayton Cowles. This is a new arc, generally following the same characters we've met in the previous ones, although we do add one new character in our opening scene who may be sticking around. That scene takes place in what we're told is, quote, the middle of nowhere, Nevada. Now, Ruben, as far as I know, there are only two places in Nevada, right? One is Las Vegas, and the other
Everywhere
is
else is nowhere.
The middle of nowhere, right? And those are the two places in Las Vegas. So this is definitely not Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It could be 2 minutes away for all I know, but
Yeah.
there they are in the desert. So we see the executioner, Carl Denty. He's standing next to his car. That car is parked next to a sign that says Nevada Security Site, do not enter. He checks his watch like he's waiting for somebody, and then that somebody teleports in a loud flash. Our new somebody it's Wildside, Richard Gill, one of the founding members of the Mutant Liberation Front. Pretty crazy that a famous pro-mutant terrorist like Wildside would be working with the freaking executioner, but I guess they have an interest in common. We'll see. Wildside's powers involve inducing hallucinations, plus claws, super reflexes, and super agility. No teleportation, so I wonder how we got there. Some sort of device? Is he working with somebody? We'll find out.
I was going to ask you that. So he's not a teleporter?
Not as far as I could determine.
Yep.
Or
I never thought he was either. I thought he was
that.
like another one of these like Sabretooth knockoffs, like Sabretooth Light.
Yeah, he was part of that whole group of everyone was supposed to be descended from Romulus at one point, whatever that term was, the Wolverine types, yeah. Now, it's not Wild Child. I get those confused. Wild Child is different. This is Wildside, who we last saw during the fall of Krakoa. He was part of the new Mutant Liberation Front and that Uncanny Avengers book by Jerry Duggan.
Yeah. I just remember him being like kind of mean to the New Mutants back on Krakoa. That was about all I recall. He had his own little house.
Wild Child was part of the Hellions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this is different character. My brain wants to call them the same thing, but they're different.
The Wild Child's got that like animal dog kind of thing going.
Right.
He's got like loyalty.
Who's going to be the top dog? And yeah. So the Executioner gives Wildside, or Richard as he prefers to be called, gives him a smartphone. We don't get to see what's special about this particular smartphone, but presumably it's not just the new iPhone or something. Richard takes the phone and asks, "That's it?" The Executioner says, "That's everything. These people, they're not like everyone else. Everyone wants to talk to them. Everyone wants to talk about them. This is what your people need. Trust me."
I did laugh that it was in a briefcase. That was kind of a ridiculous way to carry a cell phone. I just pulled it out of my pocket.
Yeah, is that also how they transported that gamma stuff to give to poor guy last arc? Was that also in a briefcase?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have time to go check.
Probably so. Yeah, interesting.
Just how they do things, I guess. And we'll see in a later scene, I think, what he means by those people and how everyone wants to talk to them. Why do you think Executioner is helping Wildside? He says it's just his job, connecting people with what they want. And he says what he wants, the Executioner, what he wants is, quote, a better future. What do you think is going on here? Any guesses?
I don't know. There's just somebody in charge of him, is my guess. They told him to go talk to this guy.
Yeah, we do know that he's been working with 3K and Cassandra Nova. So that's going on. And when Wildside is teleported out again, it does end with kind of an anti-mutant slur. So it's not like he's turned over a new leaf or anything. Next scene is a week later at Cassidy Keep in Ireland. And I did really like this opening banter between Skin and Husk about which one of them deserves to have the code name Skin, because they both have skin-type powers. I also liked how they argue about whether or not people debated this question on the internet, because that's funny for like Marvel's sliding timescale reasons, because originally Generation X was published starting in 1994, when the internet existed, but really wasn't the internet we know today. Like if people were arguing about anything in the internet in 94, it would have been on Usenet. Do you even know what Usenet is?
Yeah, I do.
So
Your time.
Yeah, I'm not going to explain to you youngsters out there what Usenet was, but it was just like a general discussion board, and you could start a new discussion board on any topic. So comic books were a big thing there.
It was Reddit, but less well-polished.
Yeah, and really not moderated at all and very decentralized, which was good and bad. So the action here gets kicked off when Paige learns from the internet that someone named Rhonda Forcebeams has died. Can't find any record of a character with that name, so presumably she's brand new. Banshee and Skin have never heard of this lady either, but Paige explains that Rhonda Forcebeams was a popular online YouTube influencer. You know, like us, Ruben. And she was also a mutant. Her picture shows a little pixie elf-type girl with pointy ears. Kind of seems like she has sparkly light powers, maybe like a junior version of Jubilee. Something like that.
Junior Dazzler.
Ooh, you always got to bring up Dazzler. So it seems that poor Rhonda had been in an internet flame war with another influencer, this one named Tad Brody, and Tad has been platforming the flat scanners. We don't know how Rhonda died, at least not yet, but Paige wonders if it's revenge for the death of Nick the Hulk in the last arc. So Banshee, Husk, and Skin put on their brand new X-Men-ish uniforms, because they have uniforms now, and they're going to go investigate. In our final scene, we meet that influencer, Tad Brody, and Ruben, he's Joe Rogan, right?
Yes,
it's
correct.
Not subtle, though there is a twist coming up. Right, he's a popular podcaster who gets famous by broadcasting his conversations with controversial figures who question the mainstream narrative. You know, love him, hate him, that's not what this podcast is about, but that's who he's based on. And in Tad Brody's case, those controversial people are the flat scanners, who are the big bad guys in this, series of arcs here. Except when our mutant heroes confront Brody in private saying, hey, we'd like a word, Brody is relieved, says, I need your help. These flat scanner people are nuts. So I like that twist. I did not see it coming. I thought Brody was just going to be a Joe Rogan caricature, but I like the idea that he's gotten in over his head and is looking for some help to get him out of the situation. That could be fun.
Yeah, I'm curious if this is serious or if he's just playing both sides.
He seems legitimately relieved, but maybe he's just a really good actor. So yeah, decent start to the new arc. I'm curious what Wildside is up to. Fun to see this new X team come together. Looking forward to the next issue. The art has changed a bit. Audino has started inserting these blocks of blank white in between most of his images, which previously was always just image, kind of right up next to each other. So it seems an intentional change. I don't know if this is driven by making it easier to publish in physical form later, but it does feel like it's kind of taking away from the scrolling format. So not thrilled about it, but I guess we'll see where it goes. Anything else you want to add about this Infinity comic before we move on?
Is there anyone else on this team? It feels like 3 people doesn't make a team. I know it technically does, but that's my only thing. I'm like, you're a little jumping the gun with these suits. You need at least 2 more
they
people.
do have that leprechaun who's kind of advising Banshee behind the scenes. And
so he counts.
Needling
I guess they have Gateway too. Does Gateway have one of these outfits? I really need to know that.
I don't think Gateway would be caught dead wearing one of these outfits. Does Gateway ever wear an X-Men costume? I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I think he just wears his own thing. Okay, so that was the start of the new Infinity comic. Now, let's move on to X-Men number 15, Legacy number 315, which is titled Twin. Written by Jed MacKay, pencils by Ryan Stegman and C.F. Villa, inks by Ryan Stegman, J.P. Mayer, Livesey, and the aforementioned C.F. Villa. Colors are by Eric Arciniega, who managed to do his job all by himself, as did the letterer Clayton Cowles. Now, I'm sure that getting this book out the door every 3 weeks or so was quite the undertaking. So, yeah, we know that every once in a while we get some extra inkers and such to make sure it gets done on time. And it all looks good, so I'm not going to complain about that. This is the second issue of what looks to be a 5-issue arc. At least, I'm peeking forward at the previews. And it does very much feel like a middle kind of chapter. Everything moves along, but nothing really gets resolved. I think at the end of the show last week, I said something like, well, I guess we'll find out if Quentin Quire lived or died, but we kind of don't. They don't find him this issue. He's probably not dead, but we figured that. So, yeah, things are just kind of ticking along. We start with another really nice cover by Ryan Stegman. This one features Cyclops, Temper, Magik, and Psylocke all tangled up in tentacles. Not something that exactly happens in the book, but does hint at what goes on with the twin story. Plus, I bet this cover is going to be a big seller with all you hentai perverts out there. Millions of these are going to be sold in Japan, Ruben. I think it's a big seller. Probably not a coincidence that all 3 female members of the team are prominently featured here, with tentacles all over them. Not my thing, but hey, different strokes. So just to remind everybody, we have 2 crises going on simultaneously. We have the X-Men being asked to look for a little girl, Piper Cobb, who wandered out into the wilderness on her own. And the other plot line is the search for Quentin. He was flying around in the Marauder looking for Piper when that plane was exploded around him by Wire, working for 3K. So let's take care of the Quentin storyline first, since there's not a whole lot of it. Zorn volunteers to fly around and look for Quentin. Nice to give Zorn something to do. Haven't seen a lot of him in this volume. He's kind of been the healer back at base. Also, Magik conjures up a half-dozen mini limbo demons to also join the search for what Magik calls the witch breed Quentin Quire. She pays for their services with a bit of her own blood. And Ruben, she bites open the fleshy part of her own hand, which is somehow extra gross to me. Doesn't she famously have access to a really sharp sword at all times? I don't know, just seems like a cleaner way to get the job done. So yeah. I'm with Juggernaut, who also thinks that this was just gross.
Yeah. I enjoyed this banter, though. I appreciated Juggernaut freaking out, and then Magik saying, yeah, it's not like you haven't made deals with demons, which is the whole Sidorak
excellent point
relationship. I was like, yeah.
For sure. So that's it for the Quentin quest this issue. Neither Zorn nor the demons report back in by the end of the issue. I'm sure we'll see more of them next time. Okay, so now back to Piper and her secret twin. We start with a 1-page flashback that I don't think we really needed, right? We learn here, we see Piper's mom being told by the doctor that, she thought she was having twins, but one was absorbed. We knew that already. Also, I think there's a bit of a mix-up between script and art because the doctor refers to the Piper now as the remaining embryo. And embryo is a term that's usually used for the first 10 weeks or so of pregnancy. Mom here looks way further along than that. But, I guess for comic reasons, you want her to look visibly pregnant. So there you go. Back to the present, and the only X-Man already in the vicinity with Piper is Temper. They are at the corpse of the space whale, which, has just been hanging out there in the frozen wilderness for however long. The consciousness of the twin, who doesn't have a name, doesn't get one in this issue, that consciousness leaves Piper and enters the space whale. Now, Ruben, just for convenience, I'm going to call the other twin Twinsy, because we got to call it something. We don't know if it's a he or a she, or if that even matters. Going with Twinsy. And Ruben, I had hopes. I had a thought that maybe Twinsy would be friendly, or at least, benign, looking to get out of its bad situation, but not necessarily evil. After all, it's not Piper's fault what happened. She was literally an embryo at the time. But Twinsy is not benign. She is not friendly. She is angry and wants revenge. So Twinsy uses flesh-shaping powers to turn the whale corpse she's now dwelling in into a Lovecraftian kaiju horror. Beast compares Twinsy's powers to those of Lionel Jeffries or Kenji Uedo. Now, do those names sound familiar?
Lionel, not so much, but Kenji, I do recall. He's I forget what his code name is, but he's
Zero.
Zero, yeah. He just merges with electronics and biology and looks gross.
Yeah, he's often depicted as having a hard time controlling his mutation, kind of growing out of control. Like when Mr. Sinister loved using his genes in Krakoa, especially in the Sins of Sinister timeline. We had a whole planet that was just covered by Kenji Uedo clones. Very gross. Lionel Jeffries is the brother of Madison Jeffries, and Madison we saw as part of the crew in Sabretooth and the Exiles.
That's
Lionel
okay.
used flesh-manipulating abilities to be a doctor, although in the end he went bad and he ended up murdering Roger Box Sr., the father, of course, of the Roger Box Jr. that we had in the most recent Alpha Flight.
Yeah. And Zero's from Generation Hope, if anyone wants to really read about him.
Right.
I think that's where he was introduced. He's
I believe so.
Heavily featured.
So both these comparisons seems pretty valid, and also the sort of ones that Beast would make. Although this Beast would not necessarily remember all those things, but we can presume he's gotten himself up to date. So here, the close-up on Twinsy we get on the splash page looks like a cross between the mouth of a lamprey and maybe Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors, maybe also a George O'Keeffe painting, but I don't want to even think about that. Just a whole lot of scary teeth. And Twinsy wants to return the favor by reabsorbing Piper, just by eating her. So Temper grabs Piper, jumps on the back of Corsair's jet bike, and we have the beginning of a chase scene. Not a very long one, though, because Cassandra Nova interjects herself into Twinsy's mind. Nova turns Twinsy's rampage away from Piper and towards the town of Merle itself. Now, call me crazy, Ruben, but I don't think that Cassie here really has Twinsy's own best interests at heart. By the end of the issue, we'll have some idea what Ms. Nova is up to. But now the X-Men's mission turns from save Piper to stop the kaiju. Psylocke gets here first, but Cassandra Nova blindsides her, puts a psychic whammy on her, knocking Psylocke out for the rest of the issue. Off the board. Scott gets here next and tries to talk sense into the baby mutant kaiju. It's not very effective. Twinsy just swats his Quinjet out of the air. There's a big old explosion. We don't see Cyclops in the rest of the issue either, and I'd worry that he was dead, but no one else in the book is worried about him, so I'm guessing he's going to be okay. Magik is third up, and I'm not too sure, but I think she teleports Juggernaut directly above Twinsy. Is that what happens here?
Yeah, and then he bashes through.
Yeah, he kind of juggernauts down right through her from above, which looks impressively gross and, gets some splutch sound effects, which is, I think, the grossest of all sound effects. But since Twinsy has that flesh control power, the damage is undone pretty much instantaneously. So, Ruben, how will the X-Men stop Twinsy from destroying the town of Merle?
I mean, they're still trying to figure it out. They're just kind of trying to lead it away from Merle. I'm not sure if they have a final solution planned for it.
Well, Magik seems to be all out of ideas there at the end. But we turn the page and we see they're going to have some help. You can probably hear those quotation marks around the help. Because this final page reveal shows us another team also claiming to be the X-Men, even getting the logo in his speech balloon. So he thinks he's like the X-Men. And this is 3K's group of adult-onset mutants who we last saw in issue number 1. Now, in that issue, they were wearing the red AIM beekeeper outfits with like an X logo crudely painted on their foreheads. But since then, They've been trained by wire, and their costumes have been made much more X-Men-like. Prominent X logos on every one of them. So there's 6 of them. We got the leader, or at least the one speaking for them. He wears a black suit, and he has like horns or maybe vertebrae growing out of his back, leading up to a black hole-looking thing. Now we've got a guy who looks like Ben Grimm from The Thing, but like molten instead of hardened rock. We have a lady in a gas mask and a red and black suit giving kind of Black Widow vibes. Then in the back, we have... Say
red.
Again?
I like that she has red at the end of her ponytail. It looks like she dipped it in paint.
Yeah, she has a long, maybe braided ponytail, down to her knees, and just the tip of it is keeping in her theme, dyed black, or dyed red. In the back, we have a gray stone lady, kind of like Rockslide, and she has bulging biceps. We have a magical-looking dude with Kirby dots in his hair. And finally, we have a floating ghost guy with a black dome covering his face, almost like Mysterio or the Red Ghost, I think, had that back in the early Fantastic Four. So, what do you think 3K is really up to here, Ruben? What is their goal?
It's a good question. It's got to be some kind of PR maneuver, but I'm not sure. It seems like they're pro-mutants, maybe mutant superiority, maybe they're like future Mutant Liberation Front.
Maybe. Now, we know that last issue, they had kind of set this all up, so I guess they knew what Piper and Twinsy were up to. Somehow they knew about that. That's what I'm stumbling on. How could they have known anything about Twinsy? That's what I'm curious to find out. But yeah, it looks like they want to make a name for themselves and, have the public think of them as, oh, those are the real X-Men. Kind of like, it reminded me a lot of what like Dr. Doom had a team of X-Men back near the end of Krakoa. Very similar to that.
Yeah, it still sort of does. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, we got 3K has Cassandra Nova, right? So you have like a top level psychic. It doesn't totally weird me out that, they would know about some new mutants that are emerging, but they are sort of forcing them, right? Also,
right,
with their technology.
Yeah, they deal with adults and they have some technology to turn regular baseline adult humans into mutants, is as far as we know their deal so far. So don't know what that's up with, how they could be connected to Piper.
But this plan needed to take Quentin out, right? Because Wire shot the Marauder and destroyed it for a while. So I'm not really sure what that's about, other than maybe you just needed to get somebody who could potentially challenge Cassandra out of the picture.
Yeah, it could be, or just to like break up the team, distract them, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And there is another...
Curious where it's going. Go ahead.
There's another allusion to like something we'll see. So back at the Merrill base, you've got Magneto and Hank talking, and they're kind of observing this thing all falling apart. And Magneto talks about, it's time to repair the prosthetic for him.
Yes.
So I guess he's going to get some kind of suit that helps him control his powers.
Yeah, and Beast knows about this and says, okay, yeah, I guess I'll get it warmed up. So another thing that presumably we'll see probably next issue. Let's see, what else happened? So we did have another bit back at base where Psylocke and Beast disagreed on how much to push that new mutant lady, Jennifer Starkey, who's now in kind of bird form. Beast says, oh, Jennifer's not ready. Psylocke says, oh, she needs a push. Psylocke also tells Beast that his perspective is off because he himself has been, quote, hiding in his lab. So yeah, a little intra-team friction here. I'm still looking forward to Beast getting a more prominent storyline, and we see how he's adjusting to, being the old Beast in a new world. I think he's a fascinating character. So yeah, overall, I thought this was a pretty decent issue. All the storylines inch forward at least a little bit, but mostly only a little bit. I kind of wanted more. I know, again, this comes out every 3 weeks or so they can't use up all their story at once, but I want a little more. Art still looks really nice, even with all the artists on it. I don't think I could tell you necessarily, this page had a fill-in artist helping out on it. All looks good. So yeah, I think I'm going to be just under an 8 for this one because, again, I still want a little more, but I'll call it a 7.8 out of 10. How about you, Ruben?
Yeah, I'm just going to round it up to an 8. I liked it probably a little more. I thought the art was great. The action was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the idea that Cassandra being a Meldry could relate to this. What did you call it? The twinsy?
Twinsy. Well, I'm going with twinsy.
Yes. Yeah, because they have a very similar experience, right? Like she lost her body in utero and then used her gene manipulating powers to rebuild a body.
Mm-hmm.
So
do you think she actually feels empathy towards
She's not
Quincy,
somebody.
or
She's
just using her, right?
Yeah. She has no empathy. No way. But she could, either through her psychic powers, she could influence the thing directly, right? Just kind of force it to believe. Mm-hmm. Or, just by sharing her experience. They seem to have like a similar experience, right?
Yes.
So I thought that was cool.
Okay.
And these new characters are interesting. So yeah, I'm just excited about this. For right now, this is the X-Men story that I care most about. And I like this team.
I think I'm just a little more blasé about there's another team of bad X-Men, just like we've seen with Doctor Doom, just like we've seen other places. Yeah. It seems like, I don't really care about this new team. So I'm hoping this new team gets wiped off the board real fast, because I don't care to learn about this whole new stuff.
The new team is not. They're not that exciting. Like when I look at this picture, I'm just like, this would be, I'd be a lot happier if this was any of the other teams.
It makes me want to bring up all the various bad guy teams that Jed MacKay has done in the past, and I can't even remember any of their names. So
yeah,
we're seeing that again. Okay, so that was X-Men number 15, and now we're going to move on to X-Force number 10, which is also Legacy number 300. Now,
they could have been Children of the Vault, right? Like they kind of look like Children of the Vault.
Kind of. That would be more interesting to bring back for me than, I guess. I mean, we do see references to these adult onset mutants in lots of other books lately. We saw that in Exceptional. I forget where else we've seen it. Maybe even in X Factor.
Yeah.
But so it does seem to be a big thing they're pushing in all the books, that adult onset mutants are like the big storyline. So back to X-Force. And Ruben, I understand that you were not able to read X-Force this week. Is that the truth?
Yeah, you're going to tell me about it.
That's okay. I would say you should go out and buy it, but it's probably not worth that, unfortunately. There are 2 stories in this issue. The first one is called The X Equation, about 30 pages of this 40-page issue. And this is the one that finishes up the story we've been following in this volume.
Is this with La Diabla?
Exactly.
Okay.
This is the one written by Jeffrey Thorne, art by Marcus Toe, colors by Eric Arciniega, and letters by Joe Caramagna. So really the same creative team that we've had through this whole thing. The second story is called Beginning Now, and this is one of our flashback anniversary type stories, just 10 pages. It takes place between issues 25 and 26 of the first volume of X-Force, which would put it in like 1993 real-world time. It is written by Fabian Nicieza, who also wrote those issues of X-Force. This goes in between. Art by Edgar Salazar, colors by Chris Sotomayor, and letters by Joe Caramagna. And I'll mention that later, but mostly we're going to talk about that first story. So, Ruben, Jeffrey Thorne says that he had planned for his first arc on X-Force to have 5 more issues than it turned out to get. And he says that he found out that the book was being canceled between issues 7 and 8, which means that he had 3 issues to wrap up what he had planned to be 8 issues worth of story. And one of those 3 issues had to be the X-Manhunt crossover, so really it's more like 7 issues into 2 issues. And boy, does it show. Thorne hits the fast forward button, and we get reveal after reveal dumped on us with barely any setup, because you don't have time for that. You've got 30 pages to do 150 pages worth of story. So you could say that this isn't Thorne's fault. He didn't know the book would be canceled. Or you could say that it sure is his fault, because he planned for his first arc to be 15 issues long. And he shouldn't have done that, or at least should have built in a more elegant way of bailing out at issue 10 if he needed to, which he needed to. So yeah, I tend towards the latter view. I think Jeff Thorne is a decent, interesting guy. I've heard him interviewed. I read his post to his Patreon. I think he has some good ideas he often brings to his stories, but come on, man, you should have had a better plan than this. So I gotta say it's your fault, because this issue is a wreck, which means ultimately the whole volume is a wreck, because the last third of the story gets dumped on us all at once. I'm not going to go through this scene by scene. Wouldn't be worthwhile. So as you mentioned, we've got this alchemist lady, La Diabla, who's been pushing Forge to become something. In prior issues, her spells were in Spanish. In this issue, Ruben, her spells are in Esperanto.
Why?
Because Jeff Thorne thought it would be cool. Now, Jeff, Esperanto is an artificial created language. It was meant to be like a second language that everyone in the world could easily learn. It was created like 1890-ish. Very, very nerdy thing. No one actually speaks it pretty much. Like, for instance, her spell to turn Rampage back into Dr. Avery, and Rampage, a big hairy kaiju guy, excuse me, her spell is for prenu la grandan coleran de la besto farigi de nove Homa Kago, which translates to, take away the great anger of the beast, make it its human cage again. Now, Ruben, I know Jim hates backwards magic, but gosh, I'll take backwards magic any day of the week over freaking Esperanto magic.
Yeah, I'm not translating that ever.
So we've also got that teleporter guy who Thorne introduced in the X-Manhunt issue, John Wraith, and Thorne intended John Wraith to become a new member of this team and stick around for a while. And I think Thorne must have had a whole list of Bible verses that he wanted Wraith to use over the next 5 issues, and he just crams them all into this one. I don't think he says anything that's not just Bible book, chapter number, verse number. There's at least 4 of them. None of them really add to the story. It's just a trick he does over and over again. We do get Sage returning with what looks like she has his team with her who look like Cyclops, Havoc, Angel, and Beast. Kind of weird. And it's not even furry blue Beast. It's classic Jack Kirby original 5, beefy human guy Beast. And these are, of course, not the real X-Men. These are X-Sentinels from very early in Chris Claremont's X-Men run. Sage says something about someone I know was reverse engineering them. It's got to be a toy maker thing again, although that never gets explained. We get the reveal of the person La Diabla has been working for all along. And Ruben, if you know who this is, I'll be very surprised, very impressed, because I don't know who it was. She's working for...
El Diablo?
No.
Oh, okay.
Moses Magnum. If I had a cricket sound effect, I'd play it now.
My favorite. I don't know.
Oh, no. Okay. Very random seeming pull. Thorne, again, in his writing on his Patreon, he has an affinity for what he sees as underused existing black characters. So that's a thing he wants to do. One of those he's pulling here is Moses Magnum. Magnum started off as a Tony Stark type of guy, an amoral weapons manufacturer, and he got powers somewhere along the line. It's been kind of retconned a little bit, but in, I think, the latest version, he got powers from Apocalypse. So he has big earth-shaking energy type powers. And his plan, which we only find out now because we only know he's in the story now, his plan is a play on what Ozymandias was up to in Watchmen. He thinks that the only way to prevent mutants and humans from fighting and killing each other is to create a crisis so dire that they'll have to team up to fight the crisis and not each other. And that's what all these fractures have been leading up to. So Forge agrees to work with Magnum, or at least pretends to. He builds this resonator device that's, going to cause massive earthquakes or something real, real bad. And Magnum's base is in, quote, the deviant city of Dis. That's Dis, D-Y-S. I got excited when I saw Deviant City because we love the deviant characters like in Eternals, but we don't see any deviants here, so I don't even know if it really is deviant as in those deviants. I guess so, but that probably would have been an issue we never got to see. That world-shattering resonator device is about to be activated, but now the rest of X-Force attacks again, led by Sage. Tank, remember that big, weird robot, mysterious robot Tank? Tank drops his mask to reveal that, hey, he was Colossus all along.
I am shocked. Shocked. Well, not that shocked.
Or maybe, Ruben, maybe you like this one better.
This is quite a shock. On the other hand, it's not surprising in the least.
Yes, that's very accurate.
I couldn't pick. They were both so good.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, we had figured this out a long time ago. But the thing is, I'd be okay with that if at least we could find out why Colossus was pretending to be Tank.
Yeah.
Like, what was he just so distraught over Krakoa? Did he have another reason he didn't want to be in public? We get nothing. Not a word about that. Jeff Thorne does say he's going to publish a blog post laying out what his plan would have been for those 5 canceled issues. Doesn't really count if it's not in the actual comics, but hey, listeners, I'll report back if there's anything interesting there. Next, we find out that the fake Colossus, remember him? The one working with El Diablo or La Diabla?
Mm-hmm.
Fake Colossus is yet another obscure Black Marvel character. What are the odds? This one is a woman called Xanda, who's a Jack Kirby character, first appearing in 1976 Black Panther #1.
Mm-hmm.
In the comics, she doesn't have any powers. She's just like a princess of this African country. But in the cartoon Avengers Assemble, which I haven't seen, have you watched any of that?
No.
There was one season of that was kind of about Black Panther. And in that season, she appears and she has shape-shifting powers. Any guesses who the showrunner of that season of Avengers Assemble might have been?
I see.
It was Jeff Thorne.
Yeah.
Yep. So he brought that version of Xanda into this book for literally about 3 panels. She gets to shapeshift into a dragon for Colossus to fight. Long story short, our X-Force heroes defeat the bad guys, no surprise. And really the big final blow is Betsy defeating La Diabla because, and this is Betsy saying this, while La Diabla uses magic, Betsy is magic. It's not that profound, Betsy, but that's what we get. Sage destroys the world-threatening device by throwing Surge's gauntlets at it. Remember those gauntlets? Know what I'm talking about here?
Yeah, yep.
Right, because Forge had built these for Surge to help her have more control over her powers.
Yeah.
Now those same gauntlets absorb this power, shut down the device, save the day. And Ruben, I'm kind of excited because I know you haven't read this.
Surge alive?
I know you haven't read this, so I'm going to tell you what's going to happen.
Okay.
For reasons, once again, entirely unexplained, when those gauntlets absorb all that power, they bring back Surge. She's still crossed off in yellow at the beginning of the book, but in the very last page of the entire series here, she's back.
She's all good.
Died in issue 5, resurrected in issue 10, but she's not her normal self. She's now in a pure energy kind of form.
Mm.
Sage diagnoses her, and I'm just going to read these words from the comic because I don't know what they mean. Sage says that she's a humanoid, coherent plasma organism, and then says, I'm reading this directly, combinate electromagnetic and extra-dimensional energies. Those are words, or at least letters that can be spoken like words, and I don't know what they mean.
When I finish this podcast, I'm going to go combinate some contracts.
Combinate humanoid, coherent plasma organism. The end. Story over. Volume over. Just a mess. Just a dump out of Jeffrey Thorne's notebooks onto the page. I feel bad for the poor artist who had to make this into a story because it really isn't one.
That's really convenient. You know, you're fighting a magic villain and then suddenly you see this energy projectile person appear. I would assume that it's like La Diabla's influence somehow, right? I'd be very distrusting of this combinated Surge.
You'd think. And maybe that happens in the next page we don't get to see, but she literally comes back on the very final page of Jeff Thorne's. Yeah, she's in 2 panels.
Well, I like the idea of an energy projectile character, so that is kind of cool, but the way it happens sucks. And hopefully she'll be a more interesting character now because of her current status. Yeah, I'm curious if anyone else will pick up from here. She is just like blue energy, but she does have those red gauntlets on both of her forearms. So that's the look. I don't know who else. I don't know what other book that would appear in, or if anyone's even going to remember that this happened. We'll have to wait and see. So we do have that Nissi as a backup story. Not really too much to talk about. It does feature Cable, and it's issue 300 of X-Force. We should have Cable in here somewhere. Cable has been hurt in issue 25 from back in the 90s. And while he's healing, his AI assistant takes all us readers on like a brief trip down memory lane, pointing out cool stuff that Cable and X-Force have done over the years. And because of time travel shenanigans, this AI can even remember things that happened after issue 25, because that's how Cable works. And then Cable is healed, ready to move on. That's literally it. If you're a longtime X-Force fan who enjoys being reminded of better versions of X-Force from the past, here you go. Doesn't affect my score for this issue one way or the other, because, this issue is barely a story, just an avalanche of things happening one after the other, complete mess. And as I've discussed on the Slack, there are 0 reviews of this posted at Comic Book Roundup. 0, none, nullo, which is Esperanto for how many reviews it has. I looked that one up. Again, we know there's not that many written reviews being posted for anything these days, not like a few years ago, but
You'd think somebody would have done this for the landmark 300th issue of X-Force, but I guess everybody else has stopped reading it a long time ago. Unfortunate, this volume started off with some kind of nifty ideas, but turned out to be kind of a flop, and this issue was really, really bad. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10.
Wow.
You feel sorry now that you don't have this issue in front of you, Ruben?
I feel bad not spending the $5 for it.
Not so good.
Yeah.
Well, that was X-Force number 10, and now, basically, I'm going to turn it over to you for Magik number 4. Ruben, do you have the credits in front of you, or should I read those off first? Okay, go for it. I'll sit back and have some tea while you tell me about
really
Magik.
Prepared to talk about this comic book. Excellent comic book. So Magik number 4, written by Ashley Allen, art by German Peralta, colors by Arthur Hesley, and letters by VC's Joe Caramanga. Wow, those are all people I recognize. So this is not the issue I was hoping that we would get. I think I've been probably irrationally high on this series. Mostly because I was enjoying the fight choreography. I thought it was kind of cool just seeing how the powers were used. And, Ashley Allen still has that going, but this is, I guess, supposed to be a character-driven issue where it's a kind of featurette between Magik and Mirage and their relationship. And it's just, you're getting beat over the head with like some really cheap teenage level emotions, and things just happen to happen, which is kind of disappointing. So if
they don't really seem to fit together. Like they're having this I don't want to call it a girl conversation, but it's like that kind of Gilmore Girls, what it reminds me of, that kind of dialogue. Yeah. But it's happening while they're fighting like demons and things. But the conversation and the action are both happening at the same time, but they barely affect each other at all. They're two separate things.
Yeah, and this whole thing is like you don't trust me to become or to control the Dark Child. No, I don't. But I'm here for you. No, you're not. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
That goes on like back and forth and back and forth.
You shouldn't have made that deal, but then if I didn't make the deal, I'd be trapped. Did you want me to still be trapped there?
Yeah, over and over and over. Ugh. Yeah. So the actual story, if you recall, Magik made it to Ecuador after she escaped from the limbo. It wasn't really limbo, but wherever she was, the liminal dimension. And in order to get out, she made a deal with Liminal to allow him to drop her psychic guards against the Dark Child, and that she would have 3 weeks to defeat him before something. I don't know, before the Dark Child fully takes her over. Maybe that's the 3 week timeline.
She gets the 3 weeks, and like basically, if she wins, she gets the barriers put back permanently. If she doesn't win in that time, well, then Liminal can come out and play.
Yeah. So they're in Ecuador. They jump on a cable car to go to the next gate they have to like protect. And they're on the roof fighting a bunch of flying demons. And they left Cal Isaacs back at their home base saying there's Magik's powers are kind of wonky. She can't really do her teleportation discs very well at this point. And so she was like, I'm not going to take him into danger if I can't really teleport him out of danger. So they're on the cable car fighting and battling these demons. And as we mentioned, just having this kind of painful over the top, like, why don't you trust me dialogue that just kind of never ends. And eventually a demon shows up and cuts the wires on the cable car and it drops. And as they're falling, this is sort of the first super yuck moment for me. Magik puts her soul sword down underneath her and she starts surfing it.
Yeah, we kind of saw something like that not so long ago in that whole X-Man Hunt Omega, right?
Yeah. But in that case, you had Cyclops shooting the bottom of the soul sword and like giving her force, right? So she was like riding it. In this case, she's just in like the air, free falling.
Right, like it's slowing her down so she can parachute to the ground.
Yeah, something like that. So we see Danny like shoots out like a arrow and I guess catches a tree and swings Tarzan style to the ground, which I could buy that, even though it's ridiculous. I could buy it.
It's Spider-Man-ish.
Yeah, but I don't think you could just like free fall on basically a snowboard and land and
a couple hundred feet probably.
Yes, yeah. So she lands on a hill and like surfs it down, and it looks really badass, quote unquote. But I'm pretty sure
I do like the trail behind her. Like she landed kind of going downhill, and left kind of a burnt path through the underbrush. That's kind of neat.
Yeah. I think this height should not have been quite as high as it was portrayed because it's just totally ridiculous to me.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it look like it was a Silver Surfer surfboard. And again, I don't think she could survive that.
Another thing we learn in this conversation is that Dani has joined this other group she's been working with.
Yeah, the Society of the Eternal Dawn.
Yes.
And I guess that's the group that Cal Isaac's mother or grandmother was part of.
That's what we're being told now. That was never brought up before. This is just Dani telling us. It does feel like it was something that what's her name, Ashley Allen, just thought of and wasn't able to get it in issue number 1 because that was already out the door.
Yeah. This secret society that just kind of tries to. It basically does exactly what Forge was doing, right? Like identify world-ending catastrophes and tries to like circumvent them.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like that general or if it's like specifically about keeping this particular liminal guy in his dimensional.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have their fight. They beat the demons.
Yeah, and then they go walking through the woods, and Magik kind of bitches some more. They get attacked by another set of demons and defeat those demons, and then eventually they arrive at the gate, and I guess there were some mutant researchers that were in this forest, and they need to kill mutants to like break the gate seals. And think
maybe you could just say, "Hey, all you mutants, just get away from the gates. Just not worth the risk."
Yes, yeah. But one of the people that created Liminal is now like Liminal's demonic thrall, and they're there. They've got the mutant scientists, and this person fights with Magik and Mirage and manages to kill the scientists, which would like break the seal. And then
Yep. So basically they lost this battle. The seal, this gate is open. One more step to freeing Liminal.
Yeah. This person disappears, and then Ileana decides to let the Dark Child out, which would then, I guess, allow her to reseal the gate.
I didn't know that. I think it's just revenge on some more of the demons. So basically makes her she's just really angry.
Yeah, is that what's happening here?
Yeah, I think she was trying. I think the Dark Child came out before. No, I guess it is after the gate fell. So yeah, I think it's just anger, revenge. Which again, this happened even before those barriers were removed from her mind. Right? We saw this in issue 1 and issue 2. So it doesn't feel like there's that big difference. Oh, the barriers were up, now the barrier's down. That should have been a bigger difference here, and it's just not. But we do have one final scene back at the base camp. Right?
This is where I'm going to talk about the Dark Child seat, right? So she fights the last demons there. The gate's already supposedly been broken. And then she says, "Hi, Liminal, are you watching? It's my turn to play now." And then she says, "I can't keep holding the seals shut myself, straining to maintain barriers around them. If I slip once, they'll reopen. However, with Dark Child's powers, I easily ward the seal. My magic sings. And Dark Child's quiet. I finally have control." That tells me she closed the seal.
Yeah, maybe like the seal was open, but she made like a new seal outside the old seal.
Yeah.
So like the barrier outside the old broken barrier, but like temporary and iffy. Yes. Okay.
So it should be shut down. So in my mind, like we better not have an issue down the road where Liminal's like all the barriers are broken and I'm coming to Earth because the seal is closed.
Well, maybe if Darkchild takes over fully, then Darkchild will say, "Hey, I'm cool with Liminal. Let's just drop that barrier."
Yeah, that'd be an okay outcome, but not quite so clear.
Okay.
Anyway, so the seal in theory is closed. They go back to the Ecuador base. They talk. Yeah, they talk about. It's a really nice base, by the way. I was like, I need to join the Society of the Eternal Dawn because
that architecture, that glass architecture there, and the rainforest, a great place to go bird watching, I'm sure.
Yep. Yeah, it's well stocked too because they're drinking some kind of
mojitos, nice
maybe
fruit
drink,
something like that.
Yeah, so basically you have like the we're still friends. You're my best friend. Blah blah blah, kind of dialogue.
I trust you. I'm looking out for you. Do you really trust me? Of course I trust me, but I don't trust you. I don't trust the Dark One. But the Dark Child is me. But I trust you. You get it.
Yeah, it's too much. So then we see like later that night, and this time we have Mirage talking to Cal Isaac saying, "I don't really trust her," which is great. I think she says specifically, I trust Magik, but I don't trust the Dark Child. And so you need to watch Magik because she might become the Dark Child.
Mm-hmm.
And it pans out. And
yeah, well, first she says to Cal, who she doesn't know. Well, I guess they met. She met Cal a couple days ago off panel while Ilyana was in that other dimension. So Cal says, "Hey, shouldn't you tell Ilyana that you're watching over her?" Although Ilyana should kind of know this already. But Mirage, no, I can't. Ilyana's too independent. She'd misinterpret my intent if she heard what I had to say. And yeah, then we zoom out, and what do we see?
Yes, we see the greatest comic book panel ever. It just cracked me up so hard. You have Mirage, or sorry, not Mirage, you have Magik standing outside of the room. I guess she overheard it, and she's like
clearly
crying, just uncontrollable tears.
And again, this is no different from what she and Danny had been talking about for the last 20 pages, right?
Yes,
I trust you, but I'm still concerned. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
We do see in Magik's shadow, we see like half of the Dark Child in the shadow.
Yeah.
Which is reasonable enough. We get a little bit of a Dutch angle to make things kind of little off kilter.
Yeah.
But yeah,
this is the best part where she says,
weird.
Mirage says, "No, I can't. Ilyana is too independent. She'd misinterpret my intent. If she ever heard me say this to you, she'd never trust me again." And I'm like, really? Like, the whole point is, she's like, I'm afraid you're going to turn into the, hide trapped inside your body, which you're also scared of.
Yeah, and we know that Magik is just as worried herself that she's going to fail at holding back the Dark Child.
Yes.
So she should welcome the assistance, you'd think.
Why would you not trust somebody for being like, I'm concerned about you?
I guess. And yeah,
I'm not going to hang out with you, but I'm going to have somebody like let me know if you freak out.
Yeah, and that's where it ends.
Yes.
So that was, again, a whole lot of blah, 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 a lot of demons being slayed. Yes. They really look like, what are Darkseid's minions called over in DC? What are those flying monkey-looking things called?
I forget.
They look just like those, and they're just cannon fodder to be killed over and over again. And then it was kind of interesting that like the boss level person, the mini boss here, was also one of the witches who had sealed away Liminal in the first place, now turned into one of his minions. That was kind of all right. But other than that, what do you score Magik number 4?
I'm going to give it probably a 5.5. It's pretty bad. The dialogue is super cringe, and I like I said, I've lost interest in this story.
Yeah, I'm at a 4.5. The writing just feels kind of below what I expect from a professional level. It's just so repetitive, so just artificial. The concept of this Society of Eternal Dawn just being thrown at us out of nowhere, and oh yeah, by the way, the grandmother was part of that too. It doesn't feel like somebody who had written professional comics before really has a good grasp of what's going on.
It's
and if
weird
the writer doesn't have a good grasp, I sure don't.
It's really weird what they focus on, because we get the name of Mirage's bow as Dawn Piercer.
Yes.
It's like an upgraded bow. I'm like, really? That's what you're going to focus on?
Well, Mirage has always had problems. It's kind of the same thing as the Doug Ramsey problem, right? She has a cool power of being able to make people see their greatest fear, but it's not really dynamic for like a comic book fight. So various times they give her additional powers like, these psionic arrows. So for this, she has to have some sort of a battle-y type power. So they upgrade her psionic arrows. Well, that was Magik number 4. And I guess reportedly this book continues to sell pretty well. Like all those
covers. Yeah,
it's the covers. Like this cover is all about Ilyana's cleavage being seen through a Power Girl style boob window.
Yes.
That's it. I mean, there's some other stuff going on, but
this is like don't read it on the bus. That of book covers.
Ever see those studies of like they do eye tracking? Like, and they put devices on people's eyes and they show them images and see where their eyes are actually looking. Everyone's eyes are going to just one place at the bottom of this cover. That's the only thing people are looking at here.
Yes.
And yeah, if you want the cover, buy it for the cover, I guess. But the contents between the covers are just not good. Okay, that was the final book of our show.
I do have some news for you.
Oh, okay. We got some. I don't have the breaking news, but we'll have to imagine that was just played. Go ahead.
Yes. So probably nobody is reading this, but Power Man Timeless is still ongoing. And in the
I haven't gotten to it yet. I mean to.
In the 3rd issue, something horrible happens. This new villain I think his name is it Aaron or something like that? Aeon. Anyways, this new villain shows up to Racco and basically kills everyone. Potentially killing.
Wow.
Yes, potentially killing Apocalypse.
Huh. Not even in an X book.
No, yeah.
It's crazy to me. Who's writing this book?
Lansing and Kelly.
Lansing and Kelly. Oh, right. So it is kind of crazy to me that the Racco is still existing in Marvel continuity, but
might not
in this side of a side book that is like an alternate version of Power Man from a different universe, and that's where we find out what's going on with the Racco. That's pretty crazy, because that should be a huge thing somewhere in the X books. But I guess Tom Brevoort's just not interested. He wants to just forget that happened.
Yeah, Aeon is the character's name, and he's oh gosh, what's the not X-Men, not mutant characters, the Inhumans. Ooh. So Aeon is a Inhuman, and he shows up, and he wrecks.
Wow, I thought Marvel wanted to forget the Inhumans even existed. That's something.
Yeah, so very, very interesting, and it seems like Apocalypse is dead, which maybe is going to trigger Doug Apocalypse. He certainly gets like cut in half.
Wow. So, I'm going to guess Apocalypse is going to be okay. I don't think they would actually kill Apocalypse off in a side book like that. But we know that Doug Apocalypse is coming back, and I think it's the next arc of X-Men after we finish up this Piper Cobb thing, which I think is like X-Men number 19. So, sometime this summer we'll get Doug in an X book, and we'll see if this storyline over in Power Time, what's it called? What's the book even called?
Timeless.
Power Man Timeless. We'll see if that storyline even gets mentioned, which I'd put about 50-50. That's interesting. Thanks for bringing that up. Maybe we'll talk about Power Man Timeless a little bit more next week, because I'll have time to catch up to it. Because, Ruben, next week is one of those 5th weeks, and for all the busy weeks we've had, there's only one book coming out next week that's on our docket, and that is NYX number 10. Which is, of course, the final issue of that Lansing and Kelly series. We do have Weapon X-Men number 3, have not been keeping up with that. We do have Wolverine and Kitty Pryde number 1, which is that Chris Claremont continuity insert story that's set way back in the day. But Ruben, you had another idea for something we could talk about next week, given all this extra time we're probably going to have. So why don't you tell us about that? What do you want us to do?
Yeah, so we've been talking about a lot of like open threads that Jed McKay needs to start closing, and they're kind of getting out of control. And I started thinking about it, and I was like,
he's juggling them pretty well, but there's a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah, there are a lot. And then I was like, there's probably a lot in other series. And, of course, my favorite dangling thread is where's my favorite character? I'll save that for the next recording. But
fair enough. I'll leave that one for you. I won't even put that one on my list.
Yeah, I know. Nobody else would, but just stuff like that. I'm just kind of curious, like, what are you thinking about? What are the things that you want answered, and what's interesting, what's not? Maybe we could do like, best and worst of these like dangling threads. Okay. Trying to get a sense of like, what do we care about in these books?
Right.
Like, is there really a central narrative as far as stuff to be revealed and resolved?
There's a lot of people talking about falling off of the X books, and we'll talk about what are the things bringing us back to the books. What are the things we're excited to see answered? Yeah. And so listeners, if you have any ones you want to add, you know how to email to us at the Weird Science email address, which is probably going to be in the show notes. You can find us on Twitter at WS Marvel Comics, or if you're part of the Patreon, come yell at us in the Slack. We kind of like it. Well, that's it for this week, Ruben. And I don't have any recommended reading. I've read enough and watched enough curling that I'm ready to just kind of close my eyes and take a break. But until that new issue comes out of NYX number 10, what can our loyal listeners do to pass their precious time?
Read more X-Men comics.
Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive. Going through all the X books is their mission, so get ready for the learned edition. Things are getting weird in here.
I am shocked.
Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed.
How dare you?
Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X,
I like it, though. I listen to it every week.
This is quite a shock. On the other hand, it's not surprising in the least.